live right now. All right, I'm going live. I'm live. Oh my. Do 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 do. There we go. Come on by. Enjoy my inevitable technical difficulties. I hope. If there's truly the end of democracy, I'll be okay with that if there's just no more election coverage anymore. All right. I'm here early, so I'm just going to let people file in if anyone shows up. If not, all good. Oh, I look like I'm one white collar away from a priest here. There we go. There we go. I'm going to try a few technical things out. Let's check my screen sharing. Here we go. Face screen. Boom. I don't know. What do I got? Terrace Farm, Earthworks. How's that look? How does that look? Oh, Inca terraces. Yeah, the soil health in the Amazon is not always so good, right? There's a lot of erosion. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of weather. So they actually, almost like building a big masonry pot, contain their soil. And they build these little raised plinths, which they would do all their farming on. That's a good way to do it, especially if your environment is hostile to growing things, right? I mean, raised beds are useful even here in Tennessee. No soil erosion. It's harder for animals to get at it, right? It's definitely harder for moles to destroy it. Since it's raised up, most critters are too afraid of hawks to want to traverse and climb up and get in there and start eating your stuff. And it sort of functions like a little pot, like a little petri dish for you to put all the chemicals if you want to put chemicals, all the compost if you want to put compost, anything you want in there. It's your own petri dish. You get to control your growing environment. And the first thing you need to do anytime you are doing anything, I'm just looking around. All right, looks like this is working. Boop. Boop. Face cam only. First thing you have to do in any situation is gain control. Right? Like you can't. Oh dear. Is there a thing for buffering? We'll see how that goes. I don't know. I'm getting a notification that YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers are experiencing buffering. I apologize if you're experiencing any of that. I wonder how the video is going to look when it is reviewable in DVR format. But, whatever. As I was saying, you can't build or grow or design or develop anything as if something's fiddling with it constantly. If you have wind and rain and all these other things, you need a controlled environment before you... you need a fully controlled environment if you want to have a fully controlled result. I mean, it seems kind of obvious that you need to have control, but most people don't do it. They'll plant, right in the ground, and then they'll wonder why rabbits have eaten everything they've grown. They will plant... let's say downhill somewhere where they haven't built drainage ditches, and then they'll wonder why everything they grew is washed away, right? Even livestock has to be a controlled environment. I mean, that's the reason why you have a barn. That's the reason why all my chicken coops are on stilts to keep predators away. That's the reason why I have, insulation and stuff inside the chicken coops. So you have to get control of your environment. Oh, hey, Joshua, how's it going? There we go. I don't know what the video is doing, what the delay is. I think it's substantial. But, we'll just bear with it. This is a technical test. We'll see how it goes. The lack of control that people tend to have with their farms and homesteads is surprising to me. They don't want to, I guess, do the groundwork, or they don't think they should, or it doesn't feel natural. I hate the word natural because, poison ivy is natural. Ebola is natural. I mean, other diseases we've had recently are not natural, but you get the idea. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's good. Like, have you ever seen what corn looks like in nature before before it's been selectively bred for humans? It doesn't look like anything. You couldn't eat it. You could barely do anything with it. It took, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of years to selectively breed corn to make it edible. But if your argument is that, oh, it's natural, therefore it's good, you're not quite seeing everything that you could see. Let me just put it that way, right? So, I am seeing people shuffle in. I wanted to talk about, if it's okay with you guys, during this test stream of, what are the big changes that happen when you move on to a homestead? Like the changes to yourself, the changes to your life, even things like your physiology, right? Like I could pull up, I think I've got it on a Twitter here. I'm going to look it up of what I looked like before I moved to a homestead. I think it was the Alex Manassa. That's my name. There we go. There we go. All right, I'm going to show my screen here in a second. You guys can see the glorious. There we go. Yeah. Look at that. That is pre-homesteader Alex right there. I'm just going to leave that up. Enjoy that. I'm going to have to find some way to get the chat like splintered out where I can see it. But yeah, there's me before I moved to a homestead. There's me about 6 months into it. As you can see, I don't have all the long hair just then, but I look windswept enough. I look like I'm doing okay. It's not bad. Just pop over here and go back to face cam only. I'm about to get some hotkeys or something to make that smoother, make my transition smoother. Yeah. No, like you move on to a homestead and you think you're going to go to the gym or something like that, right? In fact, you were going to do like 2 hours of splitting wood for, I don't know, 4 or 5 Saturdays in a row. Okay, if you do that, you're going to be freaking ripped. You don't need to go to the gym. I probably work out once a week. I stretch every day because you don't want to get injured, right? Stretching helps avoid injury. But for strenuous workouts, once a week, usually Saturday, I am absolutely crushing it. I'm hauling a cart that probably has about 800 pounds of wood in it. So I've got that thing hooked to myself. Like I'm like doing this. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm just hauling it behind me. So it's just full, just quads moving, thighs moving, going. And yeah, like it's weird and it's natural because our bodies are kind of designed for, oh, no problem, man. There you go. Our bodies are kind of designed for strenuous activity for short periods of time, high intensity, and kind of seldomly, right? So there's like tons of working out, like tons of strenuous activity. Then you recover for like 2 or 3, 4 weeks. I don't know, or 2, 3, 4 days rather. Sorry, not weeks. I mean, it depends on how strenuous, right? There's a big woolly mammoth, and you and the gang are gonna go out with your spears, and you're gonna just beat the crap out of it, eat it, and you're gonna just chill on that for like a couple of weeks. There's plenty of mammoth meat to eat. You might go out and chop some wood or something like that if the ladies haven't done that for you, because you're out killing mammoth. The least they can do is chop some wood. And then you relax. The same thing with a farm lifestyle, with a homestead lifestyle. You go out, you do a ton of strenuous work for a couple of hours on a Saturday, and that's it, every Saturday. And I've not needed to go to the gym. I'm in the best shape of my life. I mean, other than my cardio, which, I don't run as much anymore. I need to start doing that. I've got cleats now to help me like run around. But yeah, it's I don't go to the gym anymore, and I'm in the best shape of my life. My anxiety levels, let's talk about that, right? Like a lot of people trying to get onto a homestead because they have a ton of anxiety. Oh, by the way, I'm looking at the chat. I think the chat's a little ahead, so I can actually respond in text by typing before you guys probably see me say it on the video. But anyways, like anxiety is gripping everybody. All of these prices for food, like the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, is a lie. We all know it's way worse than that. We all know that food is going to continue getting more expensive because our leadership is not going to get any smarter. And everyone's in this sort of double down mode, right? China is restricted exports of rice, which is going to cause famines in Africa, and fertilizer, right? Fertilizer mostly comes from Russia and China as an exporter. Like the United States infrastructure for producing fertilizer, and I know people don't like fertilizer sometimes. The chemical equation for fertilizers are pretty similar. Like they're pretty simple compounds. I don't think there's anything to fear. Anyways, the fertilizer market is having a ton of supply chain issues right now, right? And fertilizer's gone up like 3 times as of 6 months ago. I haven't kept up with it, right? People are getting nervous. Food's getting more expensive. Fuel is getting more expensive. And our supply of it is in doubt, right? Like we just had like the COP26 where all the global elites get together and tell us how they're going to restrict the flow on just about everything that's essential to our lives. Like it's absolute madness. We're at the weird, if globalism was like the national treaty systems before World War I, what we're going through right now is like we're at the Battle of the Somme level. Like we're finally reaping what we've sown by making these tight, interconnected global alliances of trade. Because these global trade deals are the same as a global alliance, right? So, anyways, this is starting to break down. People are getting very nervous. Anxiety levels are very high, and what do you do, right? Well, you have to start becoming more self-reliant. You have to start simplifying your lifestyle. You have to start producing your own food, or at least in part. And people are nervous. People don't know how to keep up with that, right? Doing my calculations, I was able to find out how much you need to grow. I'm actually going to pull up my spreadsheet right now. Pulling up a spreadsheet. You can't see it yet. Don't worry. You're not missing anything. I'll just go to nutrition template. How about that? And I will share the screen presently. Okay. All right, there we go. All right, I know this looks like a bunch of gobbledygook to you guys, but what I've done here is I've made a sheet to help me become more self-reliant in terms of food. And how that works is that I took the nutritional information for a ton of different food, everything in the top here, and I parameterized it. So I went online, got the USDA nutrition data on it, because that's the best data I have. As soon as I get better data, I'll update it. Put all of the nutrition data into this table. So you got your calories, your dietary fiber, your total fat, all that stuff. You can actually compare on here, like how much a potato will give you. So everyone says eat potatoes for potassium. I, as an engineer, do not take anything at face value. People are full of folky wisdom that's also full of crap. So here's potassium. Okay, so it's got a medium potato has 632 milligrams of potassium. Well, a medium, that's the same as 1 cup of buckwheat flour. All right, so why is a potato special? It's the same as a 1 cup of oats, right? It's less than a sweet potato baked in skin, right? And it is less than 1 cup of rye grain. So in terms of potassium, I don't really see why potatoes are special, because they're not. There goes your usual wisdom gone right there. I then took this sheet and I went through and I allowed I put a portion size. So every single person, let's say I build a diet where I'm doing 1 cup of buckwheat flour, which, you can make buckwheat pancakes. They're pretty good. 1 medium potato and all this other stuff, right? I've started to gather up all these things. I have this portion. So 1 cup of lima beans has a certain nutritional profile. And if I'm going to have a 1/4 cup of lima beans, I just divide the nutritional information of 1 cup of lima beans by 4. All right. So when you build this thing, now I have a list of things I eat every day. 1 cup of this, one medium potato, 1/4 cup of that, blah, blah, blah. 2 cups of sheep's milk, which is it's not even that tall of a cup of milk, actually. It's kind of just a normal cup of milk. We Americans drink a lot and eat a lot, and everything about us is a lot, and I love it. 1/2 of a raw green hot pepper is 61% of the vitamin C you need in a day. So there's vitamin C, which is ascorbic acid. There you go, 61%. So if you ate a whole pepper, that's 100% of the vitamin C you need a day. And ask yourself what's easier to grow, like a pepper or a tomato. If you want a cooked tomato, let's say you have 1 cup of tomatoes. 1 cup of cooked tomato is a lot. That's a pretty good sized tomato. And that's it's the exact same vitamin C content. Right? So what's easier to grow, a pepper or a tomato? Well, it's peppers by a lot. The yield is massive. If If you want to preserve them, you just leave them on a counter or stick them in a dehydrator. So now you have peppers all year round. I know people don't want to eat peppers as much as tomatoes, but if you're in like a survival mode, you kind of should care about nutrition. From this, you can actually start calculating the land usage. Right? I don't know if I just said like 1 cup per day of that. If I wanted 1 cup per day of oats, that's this many cups, like 365 and a quarter. Let me zoom in. 365 and a quarter cups per year. That translates to this many bushels, so 2.45 bushels. If you want to yield 2.45 bushels, you take the average yield of bushels of that crop per acre. This is given by University Extension research papers. And this tells you how much acres you need to grow that much food. So 0.04, if you want to have 1 cup of oats per day, you're going to need to take 0.04 acres of land and grow oats on it. Well, 0.04 acres is like nothing. It's 1,700 square feet. What's the square root of 1,700? I don't know. It's probably like 400 and something, right? So if I take 1,700, square root of 5 that, oh, it's 41. I was off by an order of magnitude. Only an order of magnitude. Like, that's 41 feet by 41 feet. You can go out with a rototiller and do that. Like, the whole grain one, that's a lot bigger, right? And this is going to start affecting which ones you want to grow. Like, do you want to grow something that's going to take about 3 times as much land to grow what you need, right? So all of a sudden, whole grain is not looking so good. Maybe oats is better. The problem with oats is like in the devil's in the details. If you want to find human edible oats, it's actually really hard to find seed for that. And it takes a lot of money to buy like the sack of oat seed, which the only place I know of is like some place in the Midwest that will sell you human edible oat seed. And then you have to pay like $100 of shipping per bag because it's a like 50, 60 pound bag of seed. So yeah, it's not great, okay? Some things, the devil's in the details. That's why I switched from oats over to buckwheat, because buckwheat grows like a weed. I had some extra buckwheat seed that I guess had fallen out of my pocket, and it started growing in the cracks of my pavement. It is a serious weed. The stuff that you end up growing, right, is going to depend on a lot of factors, and you're going to have to just figure out, right, given those factors, what's going to work for you. And that's why the devil's in the details, because you have erosion, you have pests, you have diseases in your area. Like if you want to grow an apple orchard, for instance, it only takes like 1 cedar or pine, like coniferous tree, within a quarter mile to spread cedar apple rust, which will then kill all of your apples. Or you need to go through and spray all of your apple trees with Rally 40 or some sort of antifungal agent to stop the rust. So all of a sudden, you've added another maintenance cycle, another thing you have to do to maintain your orchard. Just because there's a bloody coniferous tree like a quarter mile away, and the cedar apple rust, which is I forget what the term for it is, but it's got 2 different life cycles. One half of its life, like one part of its life, it spends it on the apple tree, and the other part of it spends on the coniferous tree. All right, so it'll just jump between those 2. And it needs one and the other. Right? It needs one and the other. So if you have one and the other, it'll just live in perpetuity. You'll always have to deal with it, and it'll always be a pain. That's why like orchards that I've been to tend to be out in the middle of nowhere, like the middle of a field, off someplace, away from forests. Like it's just farmland all around, and then someone put an orchard right in the middle of like farm country. The kind of pests you're going to deal with are going to be things you're going to have to experiment with. So if you want to get the kind of yields you want, if you want to start growing things, you got to set up these little prototype fields. It might be just like a 10 by 10. You can hand hoe that. It doesn't cost you a ton of money for seed. You don't have to worry about a lot of fertilizer or anything else like that. You can reconstitute the soil really easily, all this done by hand, and then you get to scale it up from there. So you get your prototype going, you get your 10 by 10 little field, growing whatever it is you want, and then try that out and see how that works in your area before you commit to like acres and acres of it, right? Things that are expensive tend to be expensive for a reason. So you might find out that you need special equipment to like do alfalfa, right? Alfalfa is a pretty important hay, and it's pretty rich. It's also pretty expensive, and the reason for that is because all those seeds have to be planted like exactly a quarter of an inch below the ground. So before you sink a ton of money into precision equipment, you might just try it by hand first and just make sure there isn't some other disease that'll come through, or some other issue on your land, or maybe there's a forest nearby and there's a bunch of deer, and the deer are just going to eat all your alfalfa before it's ready to like be turned into hay. Alfalfa, I know I'm like harping on alfalfa, but if it's not dried exactly right, it'll mold and it'll all go bad. What I've learned on a homestead is that there are a lot of things that'll make everything go bad. So you got to stick to nice, safe bets, and your best resource is actually your neighbors. So I moved to Tennessee, and the reason I did, jokingly, was that if the United States is going to turn into a third world country, I figured I'd go to the state that has the most experience dealing with that kind of thing. And Tennessee is a hard-scrabbled state full of people who have been clinging to it, like really just living out in these hills, living out in these plateaus for a long time. Right? They've been surviving out here on a shoestring budget without a ton of help. Oftentimes, like most of my neighbors are Vietnam veterans, and they all have the kind of wisdom that saves me a ton of time and money. It's like if you were going to go and colonize a new area, you should probably talk to the natives first and find out what they know and how to get things done. Because if you don't, like, you're just going to learn it the hard way. You're going to go, was it a Roanoke colony? Feel free in the chat. I think it's the Roanoke colony. It just disappeared. Probably because they're going hungry. Probably because they didn't set up a good relationship with the natives, except for a few of them that allegedly ran off with the natives. And they just like starved to death or disappeared. Who knows, right? You got to make friends with your neighbors, because they're going to tell you what does work and what doesn't work. I got a big down low from my real estate agent about what apples actually grow in this area. And what will grow in my area does not grow 5 miles away. Like, I'm up in a plateau. Another thing I've learned the hard way is that like the winds in this area get to like 60 miles an hour. No joke. Just routinely. Like every year, like around this time of year, the wind speed gets insane. So you have gusts up to 60 miles an hour. So if you build any structures out here, like I tried building 2 greenhouses. I think my channel has how do you build a greenhouse? Part 1 and no part 2. And the reason why there's no part 2 is because the greenhouse just blew the F away. Oh man. Oh, I see, John Wander, what you're saying. Well, there's along the Noka problem. There's more difficult tribes in front. Yeah, luckily we don't have to worry about war just yet, right? Like, it's not that bad. I love to war game what like civil strife would actually look like in the United States if it happened. Like, would it become an insurgency? Would it become like sections of militia? Would there become like almost like a toll booth empires that you'd have of lords who would control, one road or one river or something, and you'd have all these toll booth empires, and that's how order is maintained. Would the narco people from South America come up here seeing a big advantage, right? There already are, right? It's not even historical fiction or speculation. They're already sending tons of people over the border into the United States. Right now, I don't know why. Like, I think it's just for the money, right? To be the coyote, get the coyote fee, people smuggling fee. But like, I wonder what things would look like if things destabilized to the point where there's no more government. And I define there being no more government as a time when there's no more, there's no more order, right? The first and foremost principle of any government is that it's there to maintain order. So if it's not maintained, if there's no order, then there's no government, right? I don't know what that would look like. I think it would get ugly. I hope that never happens, right? Because Americans are, as I said before, Americans go big all the time. Americans go big. I see a warning on buffering on this stream. I wonder how that's going. How is the video? How is the quality? Is it bad? All right, so here's one of the reasons why I'm doing a technical test on this is I have Starlink, but I don't have Starlink. Okay, and the reason why that is, why that makes sense, is that I'm on the best effort plan for them. They pushed out my date to get proper Starlink by a year, and then they pushed it out by another year. So I am not supposed to actually have proper Starlink until mid next year. So as a make good, they offered me what's called like best effort Starlink, which they don't even recommend for doing video streaming. So we're gonna see how this goes. If not, I might just have to. Oh, video quality is very good. Oh, that's nice. Nice. Video quality is good. I like that. Just put my hand in front. See how that focuses. Let me see. Any buffering? Any buffering? I want to say thanks, by the way. There we go. This is the quality content you guys come for. There you go. The your local people, the people who actually live where you are going to be your best resource. My neighbor Robert, he's an old Vietnam veteran. He offered to I give him eggs for free because our chickens produce a ton of eggs during the year. Like during the summer, they'll produce like 1 egg per chicken. It's insane. So it's like over 10 chickens, that's 10 eggs per day. So I get 70 eggs per week. So yeah, I get like 6 dozen eggs a week from them during the summer. It's bonkers. And I have like another 20 hens that are like getting of age, but they're giveaways. They're giveaway to my neighbors, so they don't have to get eggs from me if they don't want, right? So I've been giving him eggs for free for a while, and he's going to take me out to the forest. We're going to shoot his Vietnam shotgun. I don't know how he kept his shotgun. I'm not going to ask him how he kept his Vietnam shotgun. But I am freaking pumped to go out there with like this wood-handled furniture, and he's going to show me how he used to shoot at the Viet Cong, which is funny because of my ancestors are kind of closely related to the Vietnamese. We're Indonesian. So we got all the Vietnamese refugees coming from the north off the peninsula, like off the edge of where, oh my God, I almost call it Shanghai. Well, it's Ho Chi Minh City now, but Saigon. And they came down on rafts, and my uncle used to joke about how skinny they were because he's Indonesian and Eastern Asia. Everyone's kind of messed up, and the empathy level is very low. Anyways, listen to your locals, because my neighbor, Robert, the Vietnam veteran with the shotgun, pretty much told me, like, showed me how much, yeah, no, don't ask, just shoot, exactly. He told me you can grow ruminants. You know, you can grow goats. He encouraged me to get sheep because he's already selling goats for meat. He didn't want a competitor. He wanted someone who's complementary. And so I went and bought a bunch of sheep. I bought a Katahdin sheep. They're good for milk. And if you have milking moms, like moms who produce a lot of milk, and you interbreed them and intermix them with meat sheep, like Dorpers, who put on lots of weight really fast, all of a sudden you have these like food producers mixed with bulker, you know, sheep that bulk up. So next thing you know, you got these like massive, like super duper milk fed, like just drinking raw milk all day, hitting the gym, like hitting each other as sheep, you know, as rams do, massive guys. And he said that he did a similar thing, and his goats would sell for like $500, $1,000, $1,500 if you had a good stud. So like it was a lot of money for him. I think he just lived off that. And what he would do is he had a single acre, 20 goats on that acre. And he just said he just walked out there with a bucket of food once a day. And that was just to make them like him. Like they didn't need the food. They just eat grass. Like they're edible lawnmowers. Like sheep and goats are just edible lawnmowers that have a somewhat ornery disposition. Right. So yeah, your lawnmower doesn't like kick your ass. Every time I go into the sheep pen, they try to ram me, give me a Charlie horse. They just, I mean, they think I'm one of the guys. They're trying to, be friends. Right. But, a ram's version of being friendly is to jam their head as far up your butt as possible. They're mean, but it's kind of like having a big brother. They just want to rough you up. I don't know. I can't explain it. So they'll love you and they'll beat you up at the same time. Anyways, these guys live in 20 of these guys per acre. You go out there with a bucket of food. You probably get about 10 to 15 buckets of food per feed bag. Each feed bag is about $16. So you're coming out there with like $1.50 to $2 worth of food every day, just throwing it out there. And the reason why you do that is because it's not to feed them, because they just eat grass all day. They eat grass and water. You're feeding them so this nice treat, this sweet feed, to make them like you. And why do you want them to like you? Well, I already established that they'll still try to kick your butt, even if they like you. In fact, they try to do it more. If they don't like you, they'll try to avoid you, which is kind of preferable in ways. No, what you want is you want them to like you so that when it comes time to load them on the car to sell them to market or bring them over to the gimbal to slaughter them yourself, they just walk over with you, right? Like the way that you slaughter a sheep, my wife is doing the research for it now. We're going to slaughter a sheep in about a couple of weeks. You kind of cut it off from food for a day. So I lock it in a shed for a day, 24 hours, and then you bring it out, give it a bowl of feed, let it eat it, and then while it's eating the feed, you take a gun and you shoot it. I mean, the other alternative is also you can kind of like mount it, like like almost like you're trying to mount a horse, but you take a knife and you shove it in their throat and gut it, not garrote them, but cut their throat. And I was like, that's a little much for me. Maybe first time I'll just use a gun. And you hang them up and they're still bleeding, so they'll still drain out, right? And you'll still have to slit their throat. It's just after they're dead. Dude, these like slaughter. I said before that you have to do something if you want to know how hard it is. And slaughtering is no different, right? I got this book that's called like the Definitive Complete Guide to Animal Slaughter. It'll tell you everything you need to know. Man, that book sucks. I'm not going to like bring the book out to shame it, but it sucks. Because YouTube videos are so much better. I've got a video on my Odyssey channel. I don't put them on YouTube. I don't want to get like blocked out. I got a video on my Odyssey channel. Same name, same handle. It's The Farm Engineer. I think all the uploads are automatic as well. That notify, like, it goes through the entire process, and I am exact. Like, I'm an engineer. That's my job. And I've written factory procedures before, and factory procedures are supposed to be written so that any bloke off the street, no qualifications. The fewer qualifications, the cheaper your labor is. You bring them in off the street. You want to also get them to work as fast as possible. So your instructions have to be super efficient, made for anybody, and they have to be repeatable, reliable, right? That's how we write procedures. This book was not. It just had like a cartoon picture of a chicken upside down, like in the kill cone, and just a line where they want you to cut it. And I'm like, where's that line in relation to? I'm like, so for me, like, here's an example. Like, my procedure for slaughtering a chicken is there's a certain way to hold it. So I describe it. It's almost like you're holding a ball in your hand, but the ball is their skull. You take your thumb and you put it a little bit above their jaw. Now they're inverted, so they're like in here. So chicken head's in here. You've got your thumb on their jaw. It holds them still. It also covers their eyes so they don't freak out. You take your knife, a nice sharp knife. You wiggle it past them. You seat it onto their neck, right? Just the boot of the knife, the bottom of the blade. You part the feathers because the feathers will actually prevent you from cutting. The feathers shafts actually work as armor. You give enough pressure so that you dent the skin, and maintaining that level of pressure, just draw the blade across it. They will leak every time. They will die out as fast. They will die fast. They will die humanely. I estimate they're probably only conscious for a couple of seconds. I never do unto others as I wouldn't have done unto me. That's not a bad way to die. I've bled out before. Obviously, I'm not dead, but I have severely bled out from a weird, tragic accident when I was a kid. It was crazy because, like, as you're bleeding out, you're forgetting things. You're becoming less aware of your surroundings, and it's like your consciousness is being drained away. But it's not unpleasant. Like, it's not great. You're scared, but once you've kind of gone really under, it's like you're under anesthetic. Like you're going to sleep. It's kind of messed up, but I kind of remember actually being disappointed that I woke up when I bled out. Right, I was like, oh, I don't know where I went, but it was someplace better than here. But anyways. They're going to that place. I'm sending them by the dozen. I think I've slaughtered 6 chickens in a day as a top, and that was just because I wanted to keep the afternoon clear so I can go to town and get a coffee and get some fancy, I don't know, latte or something like that. But you can get it to a process. Me and my wife got it down to like 10 minutes, like 30 minutes from start of slaughter to the end of it, and only 10 minutes per station. And you can parallelize each station, so you can do parallel effort. So it becomes, when you parallelize a process, you divide it by the number of stages that you've parallelized it, right? So if you can make bread and you have someone who's kneading the dough and one person's that's putting it in the oven, and it both takes 10 minutes per, but it's an assembly line. So that means if it's 10 minutes per station, it actually takes, you can get a bandwidth of like 10 minutes per bread, right? So it's the same thing. So I got it down to 10 minutes per chicken, which is really good. That means the labor cost, if I was to pay someone $10 an hour to do it, would be about $3 per chicken, which means cost of feed plus $3 per chicken. Cost of feed over their lifetime, you got to measure out everything they're eating. That tells you how much money it costs you in both feed and labor to raise a chicken. And now we're getting to the point where we make a business. All right. So speaking of business, right, there's three or four main reasons I've seen for people starting a homestead. And I know there's, whoever's here, feel free to put in the chat the reason why you started a homestead or are interested in a homestead, and I'll talk about that. But first reason is the least common reason I've seen is for environmental concern. People. This is what used to be the top reason why people did homesteading, right? But times have changed. Homesteading used to be nothing but like hippies and sort of quasi-Mennonite, quasi-Amish people, right? It used to be that's what the main makeup of homesteading is. And I think that's the reason why the homesteading scene is not as disciplined as it could be, because people were doing it for lifestyle reasons, right? So environmentalism, that's the least common reason now. Aesthetics, right? They want to have the homestead aesthetic. They want to live a certain way. They want the lifestyle. Aesthetics or lifestyle, that's the second reason, right? Third reason is they want to make money. Now, I'm going up from least common to most common. Making money is like the second reason why I see people creating homesteads. So that little chicken conversation I had doesn't mean a whole lot to someone who's doing this for the lifestyle, or especially if they're doing it for environmentalism, right? Like an environmentalist isn't trying to like tabulate the cost per, pound of meat to like in feed, lodging, and slaughter labor, right? To do, right? But the guy who's trying to make a business out of their homestead definitely is. And of course, the last and most common reason for a homesteader to get into this is for prepping, almost. I call it prepping, food preparedness, food security, whatever you want to call it. That's the main reason. That's why I made that calculator from like 15 minutes ago that I showed, so I could actually find out what my nutritional requirements were throughout a day, multiply that by 365.25, 0.25 being leap year, right? You get one extra day every 4 years. So 365 days times the amount of food I eat in a single day tells me how much food I need to raise in a year. And now that I have that number, and now that I know how much land it takes, and it doesn't take a lot of land at all, now I know how much money I have to buy in equipment. Now I know how much seed. I could know how much seed I have to buy, right? Like it takes a certain amount of seed to cover an acre of land. Well, all of a sudden I go from having a vision to having a plan. And a plan is where things get fun. Now, obviously, there's the implementation after the plan. You got vision, plan, implementation. Implementation was all the S hits the fan, right? That's when you have to like regroup and revisit everything. You will perpetually be in implementation. You're constantly implementing. You're constantly doing the work. You're going to learn lessons. You're going to change your tactics, blah, blah, blah. But not having a plan, that glue between vision and putting a shovel into dirt, right? That implementation, not having a plan is fatal. That's a fatal mistake. Your costs will go out of control. Your, results are not going to come. And if they come, it's by pure luck or, I don't know, just like this, almost like an AI. When an AI tries to design something, and you'll see this if you look up like AI designed this or that, is it does it iteratively. It just tries random things. And then it looks the results of that random attempt, and then it will adjust its strategy based on that positive result. And it'll just continue just guessing. So like people say like, oh, this is an AI designed antenna. Oh, it's a constant recursive guessing program. It's going to guess, a stronger computer can guess more times per second. It's just guessing. That's not something we can afford to do if you're trying to really make this work. Your best way to have your plan align with reality is talk to your neighbors. Talk to the natives. Don't be the Roanoke colonists, Don't be proud. Go and talk to your neighbors. The first thing you need to do as a homesteader is be social with your community. All right. That means you have to get up off your butt, knock on the door, and say like, hey, what's good to grow around here? And they'll tell you like, oh yeah, tomatoes grow really well. Like I learned that, here's another nugget that I learned from my neighbors is that wood chip mulch is terrible. Don't ever use it. It acidifies your soil and it promotes fungal growth. I mean, you ever seen like You ever seen a log that just has a bunch of mushrooms growing on it? Yeah, mushrooms and fungus are designed to go after wood. So if you have any wood that is getting fungal growths around your food, those fungal growths are going to shoot spores out, and it's going to cause fungus to just grow on all of your food. And some of that fungus might be designed to also destroy your food, right? So don't promote it. It's a bad thing. It's a bad time. It's the same reason you don't leave dead plant matter near your other plants, because all the diseases, the stuff that's breaking down all that food, let's say it's tomatoes, all those tomato clippings you have are going to get covered and filled and saturated with bacteria, even algae, fungus, all this stuff that is designed to break down tomato. Well, you still have it next to your live tomato. It's like keeping a dead body in the child nursery. It's like, yeah, those children, your saplings, your healthy growth is going to be around a bunch of disease dying pieces of it, right? So you don't want to have that anywhere nearby. They'll tell you, like, the natives know this stuff. They've been living this life. The books are wrong. The books are so badly written. They're so vague, and they are written by people who are already experts. And I think we've learned a lot about experts in the last couple of years. And feel free to back me up in the chat on this one. I think I've had enough of hearing from experts. And the problem is these experts have been doing it their whole lives. That's not necessarily the person you want to learn from, because they forgot what it's like to be totally new at it. Like, there's stuff to them that's second nature that they won't tell you. And you're going to have to learn the hard way. And it's going to cost you a lot of money and a lot of time. So learn from someone who's a little bit better than you. And better yet, the reason why engineering is such a powerful discipline and has been for thousands of years, like we've been building pyramids since 4000 BC, us engineers, is because we know how to pass down knowledge really well. Like, take a look at those pyramids. Like, generations of Egyptians over and over and over and over again building pyramids, and it seems like the quality just keeps going up. So you pass on this, and no other civilization has the kind of competence to build these massive pyramids, right? There are some, yes, in the Yucatan, right? There's some in the Inca territories. There's some in South America, but I don't know if they rival. I think the second biggest pyramid is in South America, so maybe they do rival the Egyptian pyramids, but they would have to do the same thing, right? Generation after generation of engineers passing knowledge down in perfection. Like, it has to be a perfect packet of knowledge passed down, right? Yes, yeah, definitely. John, you're 100% right. Like, teaching is a skill all of its own. And there are people who are experts at their field, and then there are people who are experts at teaching, and those Venn diagrams hardly ever overlap, right? Someone who is a great teacher may not be the greatest expert, right? So if you want that, like, super black belt sensei, he might not be a good teacher for you until you're really up there, until you've gone through the other lower senseis, right? So the problem is that we don't have a good ability to catalog information, right? For as far as I can see, for homesteading, everything seems to be pretty ad hoc. It's not cataloged well. I've got a book over there called Escape the Cities. I read some of it, and holy crap, it's not great. I hate to be like bad about, Morlock. He's a good guy, but his book is written to like a ridiculous level of detail. It's too detailed. Like, it tells you to, like, make sure you bring a knife with you if you're going to go and pick up a delivery by the road. Like, it's like stuff that it's so specific. It's like he's trying to write a program and not write a book of to pass down knowledge. And it's huge. It's like 400-page tomes that are just so detailed that they actually stop becoming useful. I mean, as a go-to, right? It's so detailed that it's not useful, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Maybe other people get a lot of use out of it, but their ability to pass down knowledge for homesteaders is poor, because I don't think the teachers are actually measuring how good their students are doing. Like, they just sort of throw information out into the ether and don't ask how their students are doing. I don't know if the homestead teachers are, like, holding... I know some of them hold workshops and stuff like that, sure. And those guys are probably, like, really good teachers, but those aren't the same guys that are writing the books, as far as I can tell. So, yeah, there's a big information, like, deficit for homesteading. Like for me, the chicken coop designs that I saw were all really intricate, really detailed. You don't like a chicken coop is just a box. That's all a chicken coop is. And no one really said like what is a chicken coop. They didn't do the like motorcycle, the art of motorcycle maintenance. Like what is quality? Like let's philosophize on chicken coops. A chicken coop is a place that protects the chickens from predators and the elements, right? It is a place for them to lay eggs. It is a place for them to sleep at night. Okay, so what do you need to make that work? Well, the most simple thing you do is just build a box that has a couple of nesting boxes inside of it. I built a little trap door so I don't even have to go into the chicken coop or interact with the chicken coop. I like open a door and there's like a chicken butt like right there. Just reach in past the chicken butt and grab your eggs. To find out what is the essence of a chicken coop and then break it down and make it as simple as possible. Like that's what a student wants. But instead I go online and I see these chicken coops that are made for people that want to have like the aesthetics. I said there's four main reasons, environmentalism, lifestyle, financial, and prepping. Those are the main four reasons why people create like their homestead. And all those four reasons have totally different implementations. That's why the first thing I always ask somebody is, what's your why of homesteading? Because if someone's living for aesthetics, they're going to build a very different chicken coop than someone who's like doing it commercially, which will be very different from someone who's doing it for their home, right? The commercial person's going to go all out. They're going to go big. They're going to put in a ton of investment if it makes the marginal cost of the chicken lower. And, in terms of labor, in terms of feed, all that stuff, right? The person who's doing it for personal food preparedness just wants good enough. They just want a simple design, low cost, high reliability. Sure, it takes an extra 30 seconds to collect eggs than the commercial system, but it also costs like $10,000 less, right? It's a $500 chicken coop versus a $5,000 chicken coop, right? So you get this mix of we have tons of experts that have been doing this their whole life and they're not good teachers. Like, sorry, that a lot of them are not good teachers because they've been doing it their whole lives. You get people who have gone into this and they don't know how to write a book to teach. They put in way too much detail and give you like a 400-page tome. Like a homesteading book, I would do if the homesteading book I'm writing is going to just say year 1 of homesteading. Like, what does your year 1 look like? And what do you need to do on year 1? All right. If you want chicken coops, go to chapter 5. It's going to be all about chickens. We're going to do chickens. All right. If you want a grain field, that's chapter 6. All right. All these different things. And it just tells you the bare minimum you need to know to get through it. And it tells you the pitfalls that you need to look out for that might be specific to you. Rather than give you the answer, a good teacher tells you how to ask the right questions. I'm going to say that again. A good teacher teaches their students to ask the right questions rather than try and give the student all of the answers. So that turns into a shorter book because I'll ask you, what is the essence of a chicken coop? What is it of a chicken coop that you want? What's important to you? That's going to change the way you build the thing. I would give a couple of samples to sort of get the noggin jogging and decide how, like, what you'd want to do for this chicken coop, right? What you'd want to, and substitute chicken coop for anything else on your farm, whether it's the area where you split logs, whether it's the bay where you keep all of your vehicles and motors, your motor pool basically, whether it's your barn, whether it's your larder, right? I'll probably do a live stream actually where I go through and just talk about what I've got in my storeroom because I've got a larder that has about 2 years worth of food in it. It's got a whole cow. It's going to have 2 whole sheep. Or lambs here pretty soon. It got probably 150 pounds worth of, it's got to have more like 300 or 350 pounds worth of grains, flours, and stuff like that, right? So just carbohydrates and minerals, because that's what grains have. Whole grains have carbohydrates and a lot of minerals. I've got tons of food back there, like lots of food. So my anxiety level for food is very low. I don't need to buy food for a long time. Like if I want to just live pretty Spartan, like fresh produce is kind of the only thing that I buy. And that's only if I'm like between seasons, your garden isn't always up and running. especially like as the season transitions. Everything grows and everything dies back again. So after a while, all of my tomatoes will just get overtaken by a disease or pests or something like that. And that's just the way of nature. When things grow too big, something comes and wipes it down. Yeah, the issues that we have with the homesteading community and the way that we do homesteading is we've got teachers that are out of touch with the beginner. We've got teachers that don't know how to synthesize information into something digestible, like really understand the philosophy of teaching. Because it is a philosophy. John Wander is 100% right. There is a skill to teaching. Third, their priorities are all over the dang place. Like they don't differentiate their priorities. Like a martial artist who's trying to win an MMA championship versus a martial artist who's trying to defend themselves in the street versus a martial artist that's just doing it for exhibition and for fun. Those are three really different athletes. Like that first athlete is willing to take tremendous injury, right? MMA fighters take like 6-month breaks between fights because they're so intense, because they're so injurious. They have to recover all the time. If you're doing it for self-defense, you don't care about rules. You don't give a damn. You're gouge people's eyes out, kick them in the balls, whatever you got to do, right? You can't do that. You're not supposed to do that in the ring. Although I see a lot of attempted eye gouging in MMA. Unfortunately, I don't think it's on purpose, but anyways. And then the person who's doing it for fun is not obviously. Well, I hope he's not eye gouging and ball plucking. But you never depends on your idea of fun. I don't know. If you're in a class of like MMA students and you got like freaking Buffalo Bill or Buffalo Bob from Silence of the Lambs there, yeah, he's probably going to be pretty rough. Anyway, for fun. But anyways, 4 different priorities, total dysfunction in terms of the teaching apparatus, and it's just a ton of money. Like I saw the reaction to like Rizoma Homeschool when she announced that she was charging like $1,000 for a week-long teleworkshop, and everyone was mad, which made me nervous because I was going to do the same thing, like on a smaller scale, right? But I was Monkey Steals Peach. That's called. There you go, John. You can see, by the way, how much delay there is between the text and the actual video by when I react. People were pissed. People were so pissed when she announced that she was doing this paid workshop because they were like, what are you going to do? Charge people $100 to learn how to put seed in the ground? And I was like, oh, geez. Okay. All right. So if I want to make a business out of this, my model needs to be different because you gotta make some kind of thing back for teaching, right? Like doing it on your own, for fun is not necessarily sustainable. And I think the reason why a lot of the material for homesteaders is so bad is because a lot of the homesteaders are doing it for fun. Like, so if it's for fun, what's going to keep you waking up every day despite the fact that despite the fact that the weather's bad, despite the fact that you feel bad, despite the fact that you're having a financial like issue, what's going to keep you doing it, right? So all of a sudden your students are just twisting in the wind. Like they've lost their teacher because you just stopped feeling like doing it. So if you're teaching just for the feel and the fun of it, that's kind of tough. It's good to have like some other, no, you're good, Ryan. You good. Yeah, that's another issue that we have with the homestead scene is that like, it's so transient. Like I took a year off. Like the reason why I took a year off was because I was facing termination because of because I don't have a COVID vaccine, right? I'll just be full on there. And I'm not a doctor, blah, 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 all that YouTube stuff, right? You do what you want, listen to your doctor or don't listen to your doctor. I don't care. How do I say it? Right. I lost my train of thought. Oh no. Right. Okay. So I didn't want to get any jab or anything like that. My own personal medical decision. My workplace kind of put me in front of an inquisition panel to ask me why. And I work remotely. Like I'm not in contact with anybody. Like I see 2 people a week other than my wife. I see her all the time. So it just wasn't worth the risk for me. Right. And I knew that there was some kind of risk there. There's got to be some kind of risk. I get sick from the flu shot just because my body is like responding to it. And it's actually your body's response to illnesses is why you tend to feel really bad. But that's to like stop a bigger issue with how you feel later on. Anyways, I didn't want to get it. They put me in front of the inquisition panel and you know what they did? They kept me on. but I was pissed. I was not going to keep working there. I do not like I don't like hearing the rubber glove just slap and then I got to bend over. That's not a place you want to work for. It's not a life you want to live. Like, screw that. So I changed jobs, right? I went out and looking for jobs, and I found one really quick, but they wouldn't start me for another month or two. And I already was pretty annoyed at my old job. So I took a month off, right? And that month off was an opportunity cost of like 15 grand. Kind of doxing how much money I make right there, but like I make good money, but like 15 grand is a lot of money, right? So I'm going through this whole transition in life. I'm having to deal with this emotional stuff with my job. I've got all this uncertainty. I've got this money that's like gone, and I have this month to myself where I can reflect. And I took my time. So it's been about a year since I produced anything on this channel. I apologize. I know people wanted me to, and I'm back. I'm probably going to do more live streams like this where I'm just talking to the chat if this works out. I don't know if people like it. I'll probably put a poll up on my Twitter to see if anybody likes this. If they do, if that's a good way to serve you guys, that's easy for me. It lowers the cost. Like, editing videos is the sucks. It just editing video just sucks. It blows. I hate editing videos. You sit there and you have to like trim every little bit, because if you have a lot of disjointed garbage in your video, people notice. I notice. I don't like it. It's bad quality. I try my best to make everything perfect, but the thing is, it's so hard to make it perfect. And if you have a disjoint in it, like if you have like 50 milliseconds of like where the sound is not continuous or glitches out, it's super noticeable, and it makes it, you got to hunt all those things down. Maybe I could get better at editing, but I don't know. These live streams are probably going to do just fine. I might go through a presentation or something like that. I might like take my cell phone and we'll go out in the field and we'll actually take a look around my farm, because the Wi-Fi signal is pretty good from the Starlink. And I'll show you where my chickens live. I'll show you where I'm growing stuff. I'll show you the actual garden. We'll just do a live tour, ask me questions. I might do a live stream where I'm just nothing but tomatoes. Like, this is my tomato stream. Oh man. Oh, by the way, one last complaint before I like pop out of here with the homestead community. I give the homestead community a lot of crap on Twitter, probably more than I should. I don't know. Twitter's like it's like a negativity filter. It's like all of your negativity just filters through and nothing else. So that's why I'm coming back to YouTube. I hate Twitter. Even if I don't care about Elon Musk owning it. It's just it's algorithmically designed to amplify negativity, because negativity gets views, and negativity, especially on a that kind of format, the quick text format, it's a lot of clapback all the time. It's just not a great place to be. I also think that Twitter promotes stupidity. Like, there was people I saw in the homestead community that Twitter was like promoting like a raw meat cookbook. Which is okay, it's clever to have a juxtaposition like a raw meat cookbook, and they had and someone put a screenshot of what was in the cookbook, and it was like you put a bunch of spices on raw meat and you eat it. I mean, maybe that's okay. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. It's like, is Twitter just promoting the craziest stuff in the world just to get views? I mean, that makes sense, I guess, but I don't know. Maybe YouTube's not any better, but at least on YouTube, I'm making videos. You get to see me, you get to see the whole me. I'm not affected by algorithms right now. My discourse is not being moderated by the algorithm. I'm just staring at this little black beady-eyed chicken eye that they call a webcam right here. That is what I'm doing, right? And I feel like this is mentally a lot healthier, and you get a better view of me. Anyways, another complaint I have about the homestead community, though, is that they don't learn a lot of new stuff. That's really mean for me to say. They're traditionalists. I hate tradition. I am very trait open to the extreme. I like innovation. I will sit and improvise a jazz number on my guitar. I used to be in a jazz band. I will play classical music on my guitars. I will play my guzheng. I mean, I should do a live stream where I'm playing guzheng. I mean, it's just, you're just screwing around. It's like a harmonica. It's tuned into the key, so you can't hit a wrong note. You're just playing around. The example of the traditionalism just seizing their brains is that they hate hybrid plants, like hybrid tomatoes. Everyone wants to grow heirloom tomatoes. It's like, well, I want to own I want to be able to grow the same thing every year, and I want to be able to, pass it down to my children and all my friends and everybody. The issue is that you can propagate hybrids. It's just totally fine, right? You can propagate hybrids. All you got to do is cut a piece of the tomato stalk, put some root compound on the end that you've cut, and then just put it in the dirt and keep it watered. Like, it's going to need a lot of water. In fact, I would think that a dirt or sand mixture, probably sand would actually be better, just in a tank of water, which is how they grow cilantro a lot of times. If you ever go to the grocery store and you buy cilantro and it has sand all over it, it's because they grew it in a sand medium that just has tons of water in it. Because if you put a ton of water in there, it's not likely to just dry out and die. If a plant dries out, it can die in like less than a day, like 3-4 hours. If those roots dry out, that plant is done, right? Anyways, you cut a piece of tomato stalk, you take the cut that you made, right? And tomato forks out. It's like a fork that makes four. Every tine of the fork makes more forks, makes more tines. So every couple of days, you have to go out there and trim those off anyway. So take them, put some root compound on them, put them in the dirt, put them in some sand, water it a lot. Make sure it's watered twice a day, or that it's in a tank of water and the soil is just a substrate, like a saturated substrate. Sand is good because sand maintains its weight and structure, even though it's wet, right? Like, there's no difference between sand. It's not like dirt. Dirt turns into mud. It actually changes properties when it gets wet. Like, it becomes it no longer allows the circulation of air, which is important for roots. Whereas sand just becomes wet sand. Like, you can still have air, like you can still see air bubbles coming out of beach sand. It does it all the time. So you could still, that's why people use sand as a growing medium in labs. That root compound will encourage the tomato to start growing roots, and you'll have a brand new tomato vine just growing out of that little shoot, that little spur that you cut off. So every 2 or 3 days, you can clone your hybrid, and you could keep cloning the clones. Like, they're all viable. So rather than keeping heirloom seeds, you're just going to keep cloning this tomato like forever. Just have a couple of new clones sitting in your garage next to a window, in a controlled environment. And you could do that over winter. Like, they don't grow, like, you can keep trimming it to keep it from growing too fast, or you can just clone the spur and just kill the original plant if it's getting too big. Having a greenhouse is really useful for this, because you can move to the outdoors when the weather gets nice, but during the winter time when the weather's bad, you can have that be like your laboratory, right? Like, you're in there in your laboratory and you're cloning things and you're propagating things and you're trimming things, and everything's perfect and beautiful in your laboratory. And then you take the sort of the zygotes, right? The seeds, not real seeds, but the pieces that you have. Like, the lab is churning out the beginnings of a crop. Like, it's just doing nothing but creating saplings. And then once the weather gets better, you blow up. You go outside, you plant all of your stuff, and now you're in full production, and you're building up a large repertoire. Now, as long as you preserve that stuff afterwards, like through canning, drying, freeze drying is becoming really popular now. I think that's becoming that's expensive to get the machine, but it maintains the nutrition. All of these preservation techniques, their main drawback is they will deplete the nutrition of one of the parameters. Like, I think drying eliminates the vitamin C from peppers. Don't quote me on that, but that's the kind of thing you'll get, right? Drying something out might obviously minerals aren't going to disappear, but like, vitamins are pretty complicated chemical compounds, and they can break down, like let's take for just cooking something, right? Like, kale is really nutritious. When you cook it, though, like, the nutrition drops in half. The gotcha is that if you eat it without cooking it, it's just fiber. It just goes right through you. So you get 0% of the nutrition. So it's about access versus content. Yeah. So, well, my hour is up. I promised my wife we're going to watch Deep Space Nine. I think we just watched The Wire the last episode we saw. So we're looking forward to some more DS9. But I hope you enjoyed the stream. It looks like technically this went really well. I'm looking forward to like reviewing it and commenting on my technique and listening to my own voice, which I hate listening to my own voice. Everyone hates listening to their own voice. It's like looking at the bank, the balance on your bank account. you know it's there, you know it's important, but it's like, oh, I hate looking at it. I just hate it. Anyways, I hope you guys had a lot of fun tonight. It's fun to just ramble for an hour. I hope I wasn't speaking too fast. A little nervous because it's my first time. I thought it was fun. I'm looking forward to having like focused discussions in the future, man. Yeah, John. Hey, thanks for coming by, man. It meant a lot to me. All right. Hey, everybody have a good night. Enjoy the shenanigans. Don't stay up too late. This election's not worth losing sleep over. I say that. I'm probably going to go pour myself a drink and catch up and see what Sticks, Hex, and Hammer's doing. All right, everybody. You guys have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching and have a blessed tomorrow. Bye.